Welcome everyone, it's Evelyn from Twin Flames 3344. I have a very special Divine Masculine Twin Flame read for you. This first part probably took me most of the day to get through the symbols I was getting and the messages, really cool. So I'm probably going to split it into two parts because we have the read as well. So I'm going to get right into it. So take a deep breath, you guys. Okay, today is August 6, 2020. Today's the 6th of the Lovers, and the day adds up to 18, 9, which is the moon. So the Lovers having to do with, of course, the lovers coming together, affection, one-on-one affection, and the moon, which is, you know, it's not fully lit. There's some questions here. There's a little bit of shade still involved in the 18 and the moon. So things are illuminated, but not perfectly clear with the Lovers. So it was a very rainy day this morning here, and I first split the deck. When did I? It was at 10:10. I'm trying to remember, why didn't I write that down? So this is a 7-deck read for those of you not familiar with my reads. And the main deck is the SIRIAN STARSEED deck, and there are 6 other decks there, so it's a lot of energy on the table. So again, it is for the Twin Flames, the Divine Masculines, which affects the masculine within the feminine as well. And it's a general read, so if something doesn't resonate with you, please don't force it to fit. There's a lot of messages out there. There's definitely going to be something there for you. This one I cut and dealt at 10:10, and that's the Wheel of Fortune, the 2 10s. And 10:10 is also the trill of the 1010, the very high vibration, which actually came up in the read first thing today. At 10:13, 13 being the death card or transition, the transformation, the end, I was getting right away Henry VIII, I am. And here we are going on 8-8 Lionsgate. So then as I was clarifying and covering up some of the words, the F Forbes came up, and the F Flames, F Chalices were all coming up in the past week or two. So F Orbs or Swords was coming up here. But I looked up orbs yesterday, it was part of the read, and one of the meanings was an orphan and also the blind. So F Orbs, and for me F is code for Phi, which for me has to do with expansion of energy beyond the human temperature, so, you know, getting too hot or too cold. So the orphan deprived of their eyes or blind become the eye, the field, the celestial sphere and orbit. At 10:30, and 30 being the 4 of Wands, the union energy, the Knight of Wands reversed, as I was dealing out the clarification cards, was squashing the Page of Wands reverse, inner flame. Okay, this is the Knight of Wands and the Page of Wands. They were both reversed. I finished clarifying the read at 10:39, and 39 is the Knight of Cups. The major arcana, I'm not going to go into until I do the read, because I might keep this first part separate from the read. So I want the code line to be together with the read. So as soon as I started the code line here, I realized that sometimes I'll get some like, not full letters, but symbols, which you can't look up because you can't enter a symbol in, like a letter. And sometimes I figure, you know, why are they giving me these symbols? I'm probably not going to be able to figure out what it means, and I should know better than that because they always show me. It's so amazing how this always happens. So I was getting a few little lines and symbols here on the code line, and I wasn't sure what it was supposed to mean. It was all about physical activity and completion. The C was covered, so it's coming up again as the Om pletion. So using the Om, and to see the Om pletion. So right away I was getting to say I am, and Henry VIII, I am, was coming up from the code line. And then the TR came up, which for me is trill, but it's also, I worked for Mountain Bell before they divested, or during the divestiture actually, to help them divest. And TR is a code for touch tone service. At the time when we were using regular phones, way back when. And so TR always means to me touch tone, but it also means touchstone, because if you see the statue off to the left in front of you, that's actually called touchstone. And so TR is always those words for me. So regarding Henry VIII, I am. Okay, I'm like, okay, what is it about Henry VIII? And we have Lionsgate coming up, so I'm like, what do you want me to know about Henry VIII? And we also have flames in the code line to the nth degree. We had the sage and the mast, which has to do with the wise one and support. And I was getting Louis, and we, from in French, yes, O-U-I, and Louis. So I'm like, okay, they're going to Lucifer. With Henry VIII, how is this working? I had physical activity and completion as far as the numerology cards. And touchstone and touch tone were coming up. And then I was also getting ET, phone home, and the finger, that, the ET finger being touchstone or touch tone, and that has to do with tone, right, sound. And then touchstone has to do with, crystals and stones or natural earth. And then Mountain Bell was coming up where I worked, and AT&T, and the Liberty Bell in Ben Franklin, because a lot of that stuff came up yesterday. So the clear, wise one, or the queen, with support, or a sail, the mast. And then I was getting that we've hit critical mass, the critical mass point. And then we, O-U-I, meaning yes in French, and flames to the nth degree. So right away I was getting the word, or the letter F. It's E-T-H with an accent over it. And that came up yesterday, I believe. And was it TETH? It was under TETH yesterday. TETH or F? Well, either which way. F is the 26th letter that was coming up yesterday. But the word TETH was coming up because F is between T and U. So as soon as I wrote down the T and U, I was getting TETH. So I looked up TETH, T-E-T-H, and TETH came up first in Star Wars. And I was getting a satire as well from the code line. So Star Wars came up with TETH, and the Star Wars header said, that's wild space. The droid army isn't even in that sector, from Anakin Skywalker, that TETH was a jungle planet controllable by the Hutt. And also I was getting, instead of FU, they were showing me TETH-U, right? So this is kind of funny. So after the Clone Wars in Star Wars, the castles there were abandoned and some were converted by the Hutts into formidable strongholds. So basically a war zone. So this is TETH coming up. TETH also means, it's also the letter of Semitic abjads, the 9th letter, and in Phoenician, also Hebrew and Aramaic and Syriac. They're just different versions of the way it's spelt, but they were coming up as the 9th letter, the 16th letter, the 19th letter, and then F is the 26th letter that came up yesterday. I was also getting, the woodpeckers came to my house yesterday. They haven't bothered me yet this year, so I was surprised, and all of a sudden they showed up yesterday. But I'm getting a smaller woodpecker, so I looked the pictures up to see what kind of woodpecker it was, because usually I get the much bigger ones, and this was a really small woodpecker, and they're called downies. So Robert Downey Jr. comes up here, but also Downey was coming up as down, right, with Lucifer, and then there's more energy about down, but also small was coming up around there, and they're black and white. There wasn't a lot of red on it. The male always has a little bit of red, but the females were very much black and white, so you wouldn't necessarily recognize them right away as a woodpecker. And when I wrote woodpecker down, it was 1111. So we have the 16th letter, we have the 19th letter in Persian, and then I was getting touchdown because 9, 16, 19, and 26, they have 9s in common, then 6s in common, of the teth and eth, and then the 4 numbers added up to 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, 8, 9 is the 5D, and then 10, I was getting touchdown. All right, so we have touchdown, we have touchstone, touch tone. Touch is the common thread there. And mountain bell, right? It's a phone thing. Reach out and touch someone. And then we had ET with phone home. So it's all about communicating, right? So, I'm okay. Okay, so I got Henry VIII. What are they trying to get me to? So teth in Hebrew actually means wheel or teeth or hot. And then the acronym SAIA came up. So I looked up SAIA. And it means SAI, which is white bread, shit, a three-pronged weapon, which is a pitchfork. And then it also means a robe or a long skirt on a woman, to exit, leave, ditch, or trench. And then the TR came up. And I told you, for me, TR usually means trill, or that very high vibration, which we always talk about. And it's also in music, or touch tone. So it came up trill, translator. So TR is translator. It also means row. And in Egyptian, the symbol for that I'm going to show you, it means season or a time, right? So the Egyptian time period. It also means really. And TR also means to respect, to worship, to hail. And it also means the foot or feet. So I'm going to show you, I wrote some of the symbols down so you could be more clear on what I was talking about. So hopefully you can see them well. All right, so there's the Egyptian symbol that was coming up. Let me just make it a little clearer there. Okay. So there's the symbol, the 4 symbols there. Okay? So that's TR. So then I'm saying, okay, mountain bell. Mountain bell, the non-hike, and views amazing. So it took me to a website in Georgia where there's a mountain, Bell Mountain in Georgia. It's right at the Georgia-North Carolina border. And Hiawassee is the town there, and the population there is 880 LOL. That was the 2010 census, and it was between the highways 288, which is the twins 88, doing the dance, the 76 and 75, which is the 7 and 8 of Pentacles. 7 of Pentacles in the SIRIAN Starseed deck for me is the Divine Feminine's heart in the E Tower. And then the 8 of Pentacles is is aligning with co-creation. So they're very much along the lines of the twin flame journey. And Route 66 was very nearby, who's the Queen of Pentacles. It's also halfway between Asheville, North Carolina, and Atlanta, like pretty much exactly between the two. And Asheville highways are like Route 40 and 26 and 240. And then there's also an Ashland, which there's really nothing there, but there's also an Ashland in North Carolina at Route 88 between Creston and Parker and Green Valley above Zionville, and between Mountain City and West Jefferson as well. So 88 becomes Route 67, which is the Knight of Pentacles at Tennessee, and then goes through Sutherland, Ashland, Creston, Clifton, Warrenville, south to Jefferson and Main Street, and then becomes Route 16, which is the Tower, through Orion, and becomes 88 again, the twins dancing together, into Laurel Springs. And Laurel, I think you'll appreciate that, and Stone Mountain Park. So it's all connected, and that's all through the Atlanta area over from the north to the east. And it becomes 18 towards Route 77. And 77, of course, is the sovereign, and 18 is the moon, which is today's energy, along with the 6 of the lovers. So some of the codes I was getting from all this information, we have the exit, because Saya means exit, to exit, and hell was coming up with Lucifer and the pitchfork. Respect, worship, and feet, right? So when we worship, we also kiss people's feet in some religions. And the trill and the Egyptian time, and that season was coming up. And ET, which is literally ET, Egyptian time. So what about the finger? Is that the Yod? And then the touchstone and the pyramids of the Sphinx, right? So we're talking about Egyptian times. What are the touchstones there for the pyramid and the Sphinx, I would think of, right? So I go back to the code line. And the first letter in the code line is the letter S. And I was getting the S as the broken circle, right? So if you take a circle and you flip it in half, it becomes an S. So the code, and also those little code lines in the code line, the little half letters that I wasn't, you know, they don't mean anything to me. I was seeing then as oui, O-U-I, so the French yes. And I was also getting the die was cast, and the cast of the burning bush with the flames to the nth degree. So Mountain Bell was coming up, the 88, Georgia versus North Carolina. The guide stones were coming up that came up the other day for me. Ashland and Avalon was there as well, around Ashland, North Carolina. And on the other side where the guidelines were was Dewey Rose. Dewey Rose. So because Henry VIII came up, of course England came up. And the first thing that came up about all this stuff, besides hell and touchdown, we had Mary Rose. So we have Dewey Rose in Georgia, and now we have Mary Rose, who was Henry VIII's sister, and he named his favorite ship after Mary Rose. Let's see, she was his favorite sister, Mary Tudor, and later became the Queen of France with Louis. So that was coming up. Louis XII was her husband, but he died 3 months later. So they married in October 9th, 1514, and he died January 1st, 1515 on New Year's Day. And 1515 is the devil again, times 2. So now notice that the Louis VII, I believe, it was French and claimed the English throne. So this is a back and forth between England and France. It was Henry VII and Elizabeth of York who had Henry VIII. And then she left Portsmouth Harbor, or the boat left Portsmouth Harbor to engage with French galleys. And the gun ports were left open as they burst ahead of the other ships, and a gust of wind allowed water to come into the ship and sank it quickly at that time. So there's also Henry VII's granddaughter became the Queen Mary I of England. So that's different. Queen Mary, his sister, was the Queen of France with Louis XII. So there's a couple different Marys there. So I go back to the code again, say, and I have exit and shit and hell and pitchfork and the Y in the road. And then I'm getting exodus comes up. Literally 314, which is pi. I am that I am, a translator of Egyptian time in a high vibration with worship and respect of feet. And of course, then walk like an Egyptian comes up, or in other words, walking in their shoes. So the queen comes up regarding Egyptian time, but also sage was in the code line, which means queen in this deck. Queen or the wise one, or being clear. There's clear support from the queen, but French. So now we have English and French. So why are you tying these together for me? And then I was getting Dewey Rose, Georgia, which is where the Georgia guidelines are, those big stones. And that's Elbert County. And so all of a sudden I'm getting Moses is coming up, and the tetragrammaton, the tetragrammaton, the I am that I am. And Moses was coming up. All right, so now I have Henry VIII. I have Louis XII. I have two Marys coming up, and now I have Moses. So altogether, I also then Wilson comes up because Castaway came up. And Castaway, of course, the ball was Wilson. So that name came up. So we have Henry Louis Ben from Ben Franklin. Wilson came up. Mary, Margaret, and Rose, as well as Elizabeth and Tudor. So Mary, Queen of Scots as well, she became. And the TETRAGRAMMATON came up. And they were guiding me that TR now is the abbreviation for that. So that's my code for TETRAGRAMMATON. I am that I am. I am has sent me to you. So that was in the Bible, that was how God was presenting their name to the Israelites. So Moses, I looked up Moses. I was first getting Cleopatra. That's what led me to that. Because I was getting the Egyptian timelines and the queen. So I'm like, the Nile, and is it Cleopatra they want me to go to? So Cleopatra came up as well. But then it was, it had to do with God and the TETRAGRAMMATON. So, okay, all right, I got you. You're taking me to Moses. So I'm trying to remind myself of the story of Moses. So at 2:04, I was looking up that Moses fled Egypt and lived in Midian 40 years. Then, dealt with the burning bush and talked to God. So prior to that, the Israelites called their God the Elohim, or El Shaddai, which means God Almighty. And this stuff was coming up from BibleStudyTools.com. The source of his power, his eternal nature, self-sustaining, who was, who is, and who will be. Better to understand or better conveyed in Hebrew than in English, because the Hebrew was the initial translation, and it's pronounced many different ways, depending on what language you're speaking in as well. But it's basically, in the Hebrew form, the best I can tell, is Achai, Yajer, Achai. It's spelled E-H-Y-E-H, and then Asher, A-S-H-E-R, and then Achai again, E-H-Y-E-H. So E-H-Y-E-H is, it literally transcribes as I will be. I will be what I will be. So tell the Israel people, I am, has sent you. And then that's where the Exodus 3:14 came in. That's where that's from. Exodus 3:14, which 3:14 is pi. That it is Yahweh. And Yahweh is the same as what I just told you, but Yahweh is in the third person. So Ahai is the first person of God saying I, as opposed to us saying he, Yahweh. So, or Yahweh is he will be. So at the time, they never spoke that name, right? Because they weren't allowed. Only Adonai was spoken. Plus the vowels of Adonai. They put the vowels of Adonai in Yahweh to get Yahweh, which becomes Jehovah. And then Lord was used in the Bible as reference to YHWH because they weren't allowed to say that. So they were asking Jesus, how do you know Abraham, when Jesus was telling them about Abraham? And Jesus said, truly, basically, before Abraham was, I am. And that was from John 8:58. People tried to stone Jesus then after that because it was against the law to state God's name as prescribed in Leviticus. And here we have Levi coming up again, 24:15-16. So I got this stuff about Moses coming up and having fled Egypt. So here we have the exit, or the Exodus, and the Tetragrammaton. And then I was being taken to the Y in the road, the Mercedes symbol. The Mercedes symbol is basically a Y in the road, but with the circle around it. And for us, in my coding, the circle is a human embodiment of source, or a human being, with the Y in the road inside of it, which is our constant journey. So I draw the Y, which also looks like a martini glass if you can visualize it better in that way. And they're showing me how all this fits together with the stuff that I have learned so far. The Y was coming up as a high. The two stems on top of the Y in the road are the two ahais, And then the stem at the bottom is the Asher, or the Yasher. And Yasher is literally Asher, A-S-H-E-R, is also defined as to make into ash, to burn, to end life, to cause too much drama or pain, or in other words, the past. So the bottom stem of the martini glass, or the Y in the road, is the Asher, the exit, the exodus. And the two lines of the Y going forward, the choice between the two paths, are the Ahai and the Ahai. The martini glass is filled with the future, which is where we create, and the past is the participle, or the participating part, where we already participated. So the now moment's right, the Y in the road, right? So to go forward is to create, to go back is to participate. We already did that. That's the past. And that's where we cause ourselves pain with the Asher, to make ourselves into ash, to burn, to end our life, to cause too much drama or pain from the past. So I came, I saw, I conquered. I am, I am. And yes, the we is at the center, the present, the now moment, the okay, the maybe. The past is no, the future is creation. But in order to go to the future, we have to say yes in the present moment. I came, I saw, I conquered. The exit is out the back, Jack. There's no going back now, right? Because the now is the present moment. You have to stay in the present moment. So if you go back, you're going to put yourself into pain. That's the exodus. But if you stay in the present moment, you can keep co-creating from that place. And they were showing me it's that we always make everything too complicated when we're trying to code things. So they're literally showing me that E-H-Y-E-H. How would you say that? Because this is God's name. E-H-Y-E-H, then Asher, A-S-H-E-R, and then E-H-Y-E-H. Well, E-H, I would say, right? And Y-E-H, I would say, yeah. So literally they were showing me, think of a Jewish old man, yeah, yeah, all right? It's the maybe, it's the come see, come saw on either side of the choices of paths. So there's two paths, and you say, I can take it or I can leave it. Both paths you can take or you can leave, which is fine because you're always co-creating from the present moment now. And then the Asher is the middle of that, the third stem there. But that can take you back to a bad place, right? Because you can burn if you go back. So I am that I am, or I will be what I will be. But you notice there's a present tense, and then it's more of a future tense than the present tense, right? So the I am that I am is more present to the moment, whereas I will be what I will be is more stating to the future. And it's also talking about the human's will, the free will. And it's just like my statement under my video. You can will yourself right out of bliss if you like. But if you stay in the present moment, you can have bliss. You don't need to feel all that. So these were some of the symbolisms that were coming up from the Y in the road, or the martini glass, inside the circle, which then becomes the Mercedes symbol. And so you can't forget that. Yeah. Yeah. So always think of the Jewish man and saying, yeah, I could take it, I could leave it. Okay, so this is coming up. And then pi comes up again with the 3.14. And so then when we go back to the circle with the Y in the middle of it, with the circle in the middle, the 0 point, it looks like a steering wheel as well. So the steering wheel and Hot Wheels were coming up, and then Batman. So Batman was coming up with Hot Wheels, and 314 from Exodus is the exit. And I was also getting from yesterday to click your heels 3 times from Dorothy and say, I am that I am. So I did. I got up and I clicked my heels 3 times and I said, I am that I am. And I started weaving back and forth. And then I took a deep breath, a sigh. And my sounds were like stormy seas ahead, listening to my breath coming out as I was, because I had my eyes closed, as I was weaving back and forth, losing my balance a little bit. So as I sway back and forth in indecision, and then this is so funny. So I did this. I'm in the Wizard of Oz. I'm clicking my heels 3 times, saying, I am that I am. Then I'm taking a deep breath, hearing my breath come out, and it sounds like a storm brewing. As I sway back and forth in indecision, as we're talking about the wine, the road. And then the song comes up, should I stay or should I go? Na, 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 na. And then a song comes up right away after that. One fine day, you'll look at me. All right, so one is the men saying, should I stay or should I go? And then I hear the feminine going, one fine day, right, in their sweet voice. So spirit can be so funny. So also Moses literally means child. And Moses was delivered from the water in a basket, which is like the womb and the water inside the mother's womb, the deliverance. So we have the symbol that I showed you of the TR in the beginning that basically looks like the circle with the dot in it, looks like the drawing that I'm showing you now. Then we have the shape of the eye, which we're talking about the eye as well. Then we have like a half moon shape, and today is the energy of the moon. And then the other one's like a hangman. It actually looks like a shower head too. I'm not sure what that symbol is supposed to be. But we have the translator and the Egyptian timeline of respect and worship. And also those 2 songs came up, also, being the man and the woman, reminded me of Greece. So Greece lightning comes up from Greece. And that's like the quickening. And also the Egyptian timelines and kissing of the feet. Respect and worship, kissing the mouth and the feet. Then the pie is coming up because, I'm going to show you this here. If I can hold on to it. Sorry about that. All right. So here's the wheel. Sorry, it's not a perfect circle. I was kind of drawing this quickly for you guys. Make it more clear. All right. So here's the steering wheel, and as I was showing you, the ahai and the ahai is the 2 here, and pi equals, it's the 0 minus 1 to the 0 plus 1, and pi equals 0 to the 1 and back. So 0 to the 1 and back is pi. So they're like 3 pi lines here. The past here and the future here is where we create. This is participate, the past, and here's the exit, the asher, or the exodus. And here's the present where we can say, okay, maybe, yeah, 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 okay. So also then we see the pi here. Pi is the circle with the line through it is pi also. And this is coming up as the human embodiment of source, but centered. And that this is gray though. So if you crack the circle open and flip one side up, it becomes the S, which becomes more black and white of the Sophia, or the feminine collective energy over here, the 0 to the S. So you take the 0 and you flip one side up, and it becomes the S, the black and white. Okay? So the S like that is significant when they're showing you the difference between linear time and then sine time, or sine, because that's moving energy, the circular energy, the wave. So line versus sine, the 0 of the gray versus the S of the Sophia, the moving energy flow, the circular flow. So linear to cinear, so more cine. You can get into more trouble with that. And so in between the line and sine was coming up all these other mine, dine, fine, pine, vine, and wine. In order to go from the human circle to the Sophia, you must break the circle of trust to share the treasure that is you. And the gray area is all those things in between line and sine, like mine and dine. Is it die, D-I-E, or is it D-Y-E? Is it death or color? And then fine is P-H-I, phi. It's all Greek to me. And then pine is pi. And vi and wine. Is it a drink or is it an annoying sound? Why? So linear to sinier, the LI to the SI, the lie to the psi. To be or not to be, that is the question. I am that I am is the answer. Get in line or read the signs. The sign, S-I-N-E, is the scene, the scene, the field of view. So they use that word sign as well in the medical field, with MRIs and things like that, because it's three-dimensional. Has to do with moving energy. So the field of view comes up there, and then the 3 pies. So the 3 lines represented in that steering wheel is the Y inside the circle. Each line representing a pie, right, from the 0 to the 1 and back. So 3 pies and 0 point in the middle. So 3 pies are apple, cherry, and pumpkin pie. And pumpkin breaks up to pump-kin for answers. You are greater than the 3rd dimension. Be present. Pi has boundaries up. Phi does not and needs encouragement to come back to 0 point. Okay, so pi is the circle with the line through it, but phi is the circle where the line goes outside the circle, right? So the boundaries have been broken. Pi is contained within yourself. It's because they have boundaries up. But the phi is when you let your boundaries down, and then you need to know how to expand, but then come back to 0 point again. Otherwise, you would get totally out of whack. So I was taking the circle. So instead of just the half line, this half line of like here, when it's a half line, this is pi with the diameter of the circle. If you flip it up, it becomes the S. But if you want to open this circle with 3 lines, it was very revealing what pictures come up. So if you take this circle apart, all right, and make them like they're just separate pieces and put them outside the circle, you get this shape, which is like the bonnet or crown. You get this shape the opposite direction, which is like the bib. And I'm going to read them to you in a minute. You get the heart shape, but also you get the upside down chalice or vase. You also get the apple, and this is like a mushroom. But then upside down, the mushroom is, if you take this upside down, the mushroom is the ship with the sails, and the apple is like Hercules or Atlas or Popeye. And then the heart and the glass, now the chalice is upright. The heart's upside down, but it's sealed with a kiss. It's 2 people kissing, right? They're leaning over and kissing together. So there's a lot of symbolism that came together with all the ways you can split the 3 sections of a pie. Okay. So again, the bonnet, and it also looks like a partial eclipse. And then also it can be a crown or a shape of the moon. We have a mushroom shape, an apple, a heart, and a vase. The Holy Grail upside down. And then reflecting, and then also it's the number 5 reflected both ways. The boat, the sail, the Atlas, Popeye, or Hercules, the 2 kisses where X marks the spot, and the upside down heart as well. So then when I got to more about Moses and reviewing this stuff, where Moses means child or child of the water, and from the house of Levi. We talked about Levi Strauss yesterday, I think. But that my great-grandfather invented the flap for the Levi zipper with the coal miners. So he knew Levi Strauss and did many other things. So in Hebrew, it's Moshe, which it means pulled out of. And then his sister was Miriam, who watched to make sure he was okay and saw that the princess had taken him out of the water. So this was coming up from womeninthebible.net. So the prophetess or the lady or Miriam, the sister, because the male Hebrews were supposed to be thrown into the Nile to limit them in the Egyptian population, the Pharaoh's daughter came to bathe and felt sorry for the baby against the father's orders and must hide it. So she hires a wet nurse, and of course, since his sister saw this happening and said, "Oh, would you like me to get you a wet nurse?" So she got her mother, which was his actual mother, and then she was also paid to babysit for her own child. So it actually worked out pretty well for her. So when he was grown, the Pharaoh's daughter adopted him formally and he was named Moses as her own son and grew up with the best of everything. So then we go on with the rest of the story of the burning bush and the plagues and the 10 Commandments, etc. So go back to the TETRAGRAMMATON, and I was guided to break it up. So tet in French is head, like a tete-a-tete. Ra, of course, you know Ra is the Godhead with the bird head. And then gram, but grandma can be a grandmother, Gramma, but it also means, I got to show you this. This is a grandma, this fish. And I want to make it clear. It's a little fuzzy on the picture, but I want to make it as clear as possible. Look how beautiful. So it's magenta and gold with a blue eye. All right, so listen, this has a very important message here. Say TETRAGRAMMATON 3 times, like clicking your heels. See if you can say it 3 times fast. Head, Ra, grandma, T, on. Head of Ra, and then T and Ra, so a tete-a-tete, with the gray MM, which can be Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene, but since it's gray, it's probably Mother Mary reference, and the grandmother. And so say it over and over again. Of sage support, of we, or yes, saying yes to life, is cast of the burning bush, the drama queens, and STD, or standard, clarity of support of saying yes to life, and then also the expression tais-toi was coming up. Quiet your head, or shut up. Quiet your head, and then hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. So literally, this was bringing up about Moses. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. So literally, Moses was saved by a bird or a woman who would mock his mother. The woman who mocks me. So he touched down in hell with a stairway to heaven, a clear support of life in the ultimate drama. So this is coming up around the code line here. So we go back to the word TETRAGRAMMATON. Tet, head, Ra, Ra, grandma, which can be grandmother, can be Mother Mary, but it also can be that beautiful bird that we just looked at, which is magenta and gold, and a fish with a blue eye, and a dark center of the eye, the pupil, the student, the dark part, the part of you that doesn't know, and also the gram, which is the weight in gold, maton, matan, or maton at the end of the word. It means chin, jailer, or to bring into agreement with, or a bully. So we have the head of Ra with magenta and goldfish body with a touch of red, and blue eye with dark center, like grandma, who's a bully. And then I just started cracking up. It was my grandmother. So she had been coming through the whole time to get me into the Moses thing. And then her, because she was the one who really woke me up. Because I was told that she was in my house with me and my daughter. And then I realized what her energy was. And she was the one who really woke me up on my journey. But I haven't thought about her at all this past couple of years. And she was coming in like saying, I'm right here, remember me? It was so funny. So my grandmother was an artist, and with the goldfish, magenta and gold, she was a very pushy grandmother. You know, she was your Jewish grandmother, and nobody was good enough for her son. And she head of Ra, so she was a bird, right? She had a bird's head, so she was female. Of magenta and gold, she was an artist, but also she's a goldfish. She's a Pisces. So she was the fish with a touch of red. Well, we didn't know this until about 10 years ago, But my grandfather wasn't my dad's biological father. His biological father, we then found out 10 years ago, was actually a Russian Orthodox man. And that's who he was named after, Constantine. And there's the red, the connection from Russia. So my grandma, she's so funny how they do this. So the goldfish body, the Pisces, with a little bit of red, the Russian history, and a blue eye, and she had very blue eyes with a dark center. And she definitely had her shadow side. She grew up starving in the war and raised her little brother in the Polish factories. And she was a pushy mother, like Grandma, who's a bully. So the bird with pink and gold, fishy body and blue eye, and fashionable, colorful, perhaps a fishing buddy for someone out there, and worth their weight in gold. Grandma's here. And this is Paris too. Well, the French was coming up from my grandmother because my dad grew up in Paris. And also underneath, I have to show you this picture because I was guided to this early on when I was doing all this coding, because I have this on my fireplace. Paris. Oh, I have to get the other one. Hold on. So I have Paris, and look at the crown, right? Henry VIII. And then, is it this one? Yep. And I wanted to show the tree of life underneath. I believe that's Gita. So if you like that tree of life, let me know. I can direct you to the person who made it. And so, you know, she came up right in the beginning of this, but I didn't get her until the very end, that it was her coming in. It was very cool. And then she says, Grandma's here, the Paris Queen. You didn't look at the family tree. It's like everything that showed me it was her was all right here all along, just like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, but I wasn't paying attention that it was her. So then she says, not by the hair of my chinny chin chin, and then I was getting chin chin and cheers. So I'm going to stop this part here, and then we're going to do another video for the main part of the read. So rise and be loved, and I'll be with you in just a second.